Hello, everyone. You were listening to Susan Rich Talks live on Solo Pro Radio. I am your host, Susan Rich, and today I am sharing the mic with the founder of Solo Pro Radio, Barbara Saunders. If you're looking for a job or trying to build your client base, I can help. I've got everything you need to end the job search or turn contacts into clients. You can get started when you visit my website blog, SusanRichTalks.com, and download your free ebook, Tips for Reluctant Writers. You'll discover the do-it-how, do-it-now strategies that help you grab attention, drive action, and get results. Now, a quick shout-out to my co-host, Barbara Saunders. Hello, Barbara. How are you today?
Hey, Susan, and hey, everybody out there in Solo Pro Land. I am really excited about today's show.
Yeah, me too. So, folks, Barbara is the Solo Pro Business Master. She helps self-employed professionals harness what they know to help them grow. Barbara offers custom-fit programs designed to help solo pros build a lucrative business in today's technology-driven global economy. And you can swing by her website, soloprosuccess.com, and pick up your free Income Accelerator Success Kit. And I am so excited to welcome back to the show Mama Red Knight. And this is the third time that I have spoken with her. And Mama Red is a woman after my own passion. Not only is she brilliant in online strategies, she wears hats too. Anyway, let me tell you just a little bit about her, and then let's get our conversation rolling. Mama Red Knight collaborates with socially conscious small businesses to create big-picture strategies and define next doable steps that build their bank account and reach more people, and even have fun while it's happening. Oh, I like that part. She uses her 30 years as a business strategist to big honking companies to turn that unsexy, overwhelming, behind-the-scenes stuff into a sexy back end for their business so they can focus on what they do best and love most. So whether you're struggling with the need to tame the content beastie or finding the best techie stuff for the job, Mama Red Knight relishes the idea of making a kick-ass difference in the world. Woohoo! I love it. All right, Mama Red, thank you so much for joining us today. And I guess we'll direct people at the end of the show to your website and your special offer, but I think we need to talk a little bit about having a sexy back end and what it means to tame the content beastie.
I can't do stuff just named normally. It just isn't in my world. So thank you for having me on the show. I'm really glad to be here. I love working with solo professionals who are really wanting to do what they love, and yet there's so much involved with being a solopreneur. I mean, there's a bunch involved in being in business, let's just put it that way. And one of the reasons I have the name The Sexy Back End for Your Business is whenever I would go to conferences, talk to people, end up sitting down and having coffee or whatever, we'd start talking about stuff, and what they'd be struggling with was how to do this, how to make it work, how to hook this to that, all these kind of things that had to do with the back end of their business. Mm-hmm. And I would say, I know it's not the sexiest thing in the book, because I realize you love to speak or you love to coach or, whatever it was that for them was the sexy part. And I said, but if you do this kind of thing, this sexy back end for your business, then you can do more of what you love. And so when I was doing some rebranding work and, shaping things up, I was explaining this, and somebody said, well, you can't put that, that's too long. You can't put that as a tagline. I went, well, fair point. And so I just said, I just create sexy back ends for your business. And basically a sexy back end is streamlined, automated. It supports your business. You don't have to stumble over your toes and your fingers and everything else to get everything done. And it's also documented so that you can have somebody else do something for you. You can outsource. You can, hire your son or your daughter or whatever it may be, but there's nice, clear instructions about how you want things done. So that's a sexy back end for your business.
I like that. And Barbara, you've got your own ability when it comes to building business back ends. Do you have anything to add to the sexy back end theory?
Yeah, I was going to say I so resonate with what you just said, Mama Red, because in my experience, I work mostly with very creative people. It sounds like you do too. Who've just got ideas a mile a minute, but there's no structure.
Yep.
And that's what makes their business unravel. And when they come around and understand that it's the structure, it's kind of like putting a bridle on a horse.
Mm-hmm.
A horse doesn't become a horsepower until it's bridled.
Yep.
And it's the same with your business. You can't really be a powerful business owner until you've got that structure on the back end to turn those wonderful ideas into cash. So I just love what you're doing. I so resonate with. And I love how you put it, the sexy back end. I mean, what woman today doesn't want,
Well, as somebody said one day, they said, oh, my God, only you, Mama Red, could get away with putting sexy back end and business in the same one and wear that hat.
Man couldn't do it.
So, that does make it kind of fun. I'm glad for that.
I do. I like that. So I got to ask, because this is the year, this is something that Barbara and I talk a lot about, because I teach people how effective writing strategies, and Barbara teaches people what to do with the content once it's been created. And so that's something that we're really focused on for this coming year. And here you are, Mama Red, with the name Taming the Content Beastie. All right.
Love that.
How'd you come up with that name? And then let's back up a little bit. I think people get confused. What is content? So let's kind of tackle that.
Content at its core, at least this is in the world according to Mama Red, is anything that you put out there. It may be a tweet, it may be a proposal, it may be a phone call, but I see 4 kinds of content: text, audio, video, and image. And everything we do is one of those 4 types. And that ranges from what I call the business content, which is proposals, agreements, legal things, all those things that keep you as a business. And it also goes for all the marketing-related stuff like blogs and social media posts and training classes and websites and membership sites and all the other things. So everything we do is content. And what I tell people is I don't care what you call yourself. You are still in the content business. Because without content, you have no business.
Okay.
I totally agree. I think communication is what drives business.
I'm sorry, somebody is breaking up pretty badly. Hello?
That might be Barbara. Okay, so we're talking about the definition of content and what it is, and I like how you've broken it down into 4 categories. And I think what's interesting, so Content Beastie, because I want to bring you back to that, because I know you just had this fabulous webinar series around, taming the Content Beastie. And also, I imagine you also help struggling people who say, well, all right, I get it. I get that there's 4 areas of content, but I don't know what to say about myself.
Yep.
All right.
And I am more of a how to organize, package, and stuff, whereas you bring such amazing, the writing skills. I can write my own stuff. I can do some editing, but that's not my strength. Mine is how to literally bust it into a billion pieces, bring them back together, and I use a kitchen analogy. So the Content Beastie came about, the same conversations where I was talking about sexy back end, and I actually see taming the Content Beastie as part of that whole taming the back end, that stuff that I was talking about, because if you think about it, if everything you do in your business is content, whether you're speaking, recording, doing a webinar, whatever, it's all content, right? And what people end up feeling like they're doing is they're taming this beast all day long. They're burning up the keyboard 24/7 trying to tame this beastie. And that's how that came about, is I was joking with somebody, and I said, well, let's just tame this little beastie.
But I think it's such a brilliant idea, because I think about that. I mean, I create YouTube videos. Here I am on a radio show. I have my blog posts. I do my Twitter feed. I do my Facebook. And, the question is, we're experts at something, and it's honing that gigantic message that we want to get out there and tell people, and figuring out how to package it so that we're consistent, that we're not flying off the handle, that we're actually finding a method to our madness, because otherwise we're rambling, and rambling is really hard for people to understand how we can help them. So I imagine that part of when you say packages, it's helping people figure out what direction should they take their messaging in?
Oh, absolutely. And it's what I do is work with people to build a strategy. One of the things I found when I walked into the internet marketing world, and I have not lived in this world for years, about 5 or 6, I came from out of the corporate world, and I did big, when I said that about big honking in my resume, I meant it. People like Intel, IBM, Eli Lilly, those were my clients. And I was dealing with content sets, if you will, that might have thousands of pages in them. And you want to talk about taming a beast.
Oh, yeah.
And in a lot of cases, I wasn't responsible for writing the content, but I was responsible for finding a way to strategically repurpose it, organize it, keep track of it, and all these things that go around. And it took me a while to realize that I could bring that same skill to the solopreneur market, the internet marketing people, and that kind of stuff. And a key to it is to sit down and do one of the things I think is the hardest for me and for most solopreneurs that I know, and that is to stop. Instead of saying, oh, my God, I got to get that blog post to Susan, and, I promised Barbara a bio, and and so we write something really quickly, and we throw it out there, and we're like, okay, next. Okay, I promised I'd take my kids to soccer. Okay, well, while I'm on the way to soccer, I better tweet something. And that is part of our lives, and we're not probably going to get out of it until we can pay to outsource a lot. But when you step back and you look at what you need to do, you can do it in a fashion that doesn't make you want to rip your hair out, and it doesn't make you run down rabbit holes all the time. And I use it with a cooking analogy. May I share that with your guests?
Oh, yes.
Okay. A good percentage of us do something like, I have to write a book, or I need to write a blog post, or I need to do YouTube. We're focused on the thing, and it's all encapsulated, and it has a beginning, a middle, and an end. Whether it's a good beginning or a bad one is irrelevant. It has a beginning, a middle, and an end. If we were to cook our food that way, we would have some of the nastiest recipes on the planet. Because if you were to go into your kitchen and you take all your ingredients, let's say you have all your white ingredients, your flour, your sugar, your salt, your baking soda, your baking powder, anything white, and you put it all in a big bag. How many recipes could you make out of that bag?
Oh, pancakes, waffles.
Maybe, but what if your waffles don't take salt?
There's problems.
Okay. And that's what we do with our content. We throw it in this big bag called a book or a YouTube or whatever, but we don't have the ingredients that we can use for other things. And the way I teach repurposing is a little bit different than I've seen taught. And that is, a lot of people I see teach it, grab your 10 blog posts on this topic and make an ebook out of it. Or make it a Kindle or whatever. And I teach it a reverse. I teach it, let's go get the salt, the pepper, the sugar, the oregano, the basic ingredients and the basic tools for your kitchen called the Content Kitchen. And when we do that, we can feed the content beastie all these luscious recipes. By combining these different ingredients in different ways and having different, you got it, my kitchen theme continues, content recipes. When we store things in small components, we have reusable things in small components, and we can make all sorts of different things. And on the event you were talking about, Susan, I did something called the Content Throwdown. And my commitment on that throwdown was that I would help the person on the call find at least 21 ways to repurpose what they already know or already have in 21 minutes or less.
Wow.
I didn't make the 21 minutes. Darn it.
Over.
And part of it was because I wanted to allow them to do descriptions. So I had calls that ranged from a total of 30 to an hour and a half. But what we did in those calls is we found out, first of all, and this is essential for everybody listening, I want you to do this. I want you to determine what is the easiest thing for you to create. Of the 4 types of content that are out there, what, if you sat down tonight, could you do and not stress, strain, and get headaches over? With text, images, audio, or video. Pick one. It doesn't matter which one. I don't give a bloody blankety-blank what some guru tells you about it has to be video, or it has to be a Kindle, or it has to be, that one's just going to get my Irish up right now. There is no one size fits all. It doesn't work when we walk into the ladies' department to get a T-shirt, and it sure as heck doesn't work in business.
Okay, so can I break in here, because I love what you're just saying. I want to underline it for our listeners.
Please.
We get overwhelmed with the 4 kinds of content. We feel like we should be doing everything at once, and what you're saying is pick one and focus on it exclusively, or focus on it above all others, or maybe do a strategy where for a couple of months you're going to do video and then you're going to do text. How do you mean that?
I would be happy to explain that, because it's a really important one. Thank you for reminding me to come back to that. Once you decide what you do well first, it doesn't mean you're not going to do the others. It doesn't mean that. When you decide, let's say, for purposes of this, the one that most people are most comfortable with the most quickly is text. So let's start there. Let's say text is the easiest thing for you to create. Now I'm going to tell you, I want you to go get a stack of index cards. And every time you have a tip, a thought, a tidbit of wisdom, something that you like to tell the people that you're trying to reach, maybe you're a coach or a speaker or whatever, write it on an index card. No technology needed. Mm-hmm. What you're starting to do when you do that is you're getting your ingredients together so that you can have something to serve those guests at your table. When you focus on what's easiest for you and focus on small little tidbits, then it's not so overwhelming. Whenever I tell somebody, I want you to go create 21 tips, they go, oh, man, I can do that. I'm like, yeah. When you have those 21 tips, come back and talk to me. We'll take the next step. Most people could write 21 tips standing in line at a Starbucks or waiting while their kids playing soccer or any number of things. But what we tend to get from a guru, and somebody can, if you don't like that I'm calling that, I'm going to anyway, because I think there's a lot of people that stand up and go, this is the blueprint. You have got to write a book. And you've got to do a sideways sales letter and 3 videos, then make a pitch, and that means you need a sale. And they do all this big honking stuff. And you're sitting here going, what's an opt-in? What's this Twitter thing,
Yeah.
So if you start with these small tidbits, they can build. And let me give you, with your permission, let me give you an example of how they could. Not that I expect you to memorize it, and not that I want anybody to feel they have to do it. I just want to show you how it can grow. Is that fair?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's assume that everybody is comfortable with text first. And let's assume that we're going to start with small tidbits. And let's assume that we know a little bit about Twitter, or we're going to have some coaching and strategy around it. And Twitter has 140-character max. But if you write 120 characters, that gives somebody room to share it, what they call retweeting. So if you sat down to say, I'm going to write a series, I'm going to set a timer, and I'm going to write a series of 120-character tidbits. Now you've got those. Now you can put them out on Twitter, yes?
Yes.
So that's one way to use them. You could put the same ones out on Facebook. Now you've got 2 uses for them. You've just, kind of used those ingredients in 2 different recipes, yes?
Yes.
Without having to do any more hard work.
Well, you can also pop it onto LinkedIn, too.
Then you can pop it on LinkedIn.
Mm-hmm.
Any place, let's say that you have a forum or, a group that you hang out in. So that one piece, and I do it in 21s, just so you know if you hear me do this. 21 is kind of like one of my favorite numbers. I love 3s and 7s, and so that's a multiple. So I talk about 21. Make it 3, make it 10, whatever it is. But if you start there, you have these basic ingredients. So now let's say you go, well, okay, I wrote my 21. I can handle that. Wow, that's kind of cool. That's doable. And that's my hallmark, doable. So now maybe you tweet it a little bit, but you go, God, I need something for my blog. Susan told me I should blog. Oh, panic. What if you used that sentence or those 1 to 3 sentences? Let's say you have a great tip, like write your stuff on index cards with a plain old pen. So there's a tip, right?
Mm-hmm.
What if you use that as the first sentence on a blog post?
Right.
And now you wrote a little bit more. The reason I tell people to use index cards and pens is because so many people are terrified of technology, and as soon as they get into it, they start, heavy breathing, and it ain't because their spouse is in the room, and so they panic. Now you have a blog post, yes?
Yes.
Okay.
Love it.
Now let's say you really want to go further, and you're getting a little bit more courage up, and you heard Mama Red talk about the fact that you could use this thing called PowerPoint to create an image. Who knew? I know PowerPoint. I could do that. So what if you went in and you picked the basic background, whatever was there, you're not trying to get fancy, you're not trying to be perfect, and you're sure as heck not going for an award. You're going for doable. So now let's say you made a pretty little background, and you put the same tip on it. Now you've got what? Image. So now you got text, and you got an image.
Okay, I gotta break in. I gotta break in because I really love what you're saying about PowerPoint. The upload, because that's what goes next in my mind is, okay, I know how to do exactly what you're saying. Create a PowerPoint slide, pop some words on it, save it. How do you upload it? You have to convert the file first because I don't know.
You have to convert. If you want the piece, I can tell you, you have to save it as an image instead of a slide. Once you save it as an image, you can upload it to your to your website, provided you know how to do that. And that's why I don't want anybody to think you have to know all this. What I really want you to understand is it's possible.
I know. I just want to close that loop because I'm listening.
But that's actually what you can do. When you do File Save As in PowerPoint or Keynote or LibreOffice Impress or any of the presentation style type tools, you can save that slide as a JPEG or a PNG.
Aha, okay.
I get into reducing them in size just so that they don't take up a whole blog post. But I actually can teach that class.
Well, we'll keep that in mind. But I just love what and I'm sorry to interrupt you like that, but I just.
No.
Okay, so now we've got our 21 on index cards, and we have created Facebook posts, Twitter posts, LinkedIn posts. We've got a blog post out of it. Now we're turning it into an image, and we're on PowerPoint with it. Okay, what's next?
Now let's say that you find that your audience, the people you really want to work with, I call them the guests. Even when I have people that work with me, they fill out a guest profile. They don't feel like an intake form. Everything is, kind of around that. And so now let's say you have this image that you created. As long as you have an image, you can put it on Pinterest.
Well, can I stop a minute and ask a question or maybe get some clarification?
Of course, my love.
Take it back a step for our listeners. We've kind of rushed ahead into creating content. How about we step back a second and who are we talking to? What do they need to hear?
Oh, believe me, I have a whole strategy where I sit down and make everybody, that sounded bad, right? I make everybody, when I do all this, I do a whole upfront thing of, who are you? What do you want to do? Who do you want to reach? Why do you want to reach them? What do you want to serve them? I do that whole thing. That is part of a full content strategy.
Yeah, I think for maybe for our listeners, they're starting to breathe heavy. I can hear them.
Okay, so let's make sure that they're not going to breathe so heavy. One of the things that is important.
All these, maybe the people you're talking to aren't there, so.
Yeah. And the thing about it is when you start talking about using this, and I just answered this question on a forum earlier today. I want to do blah, 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 and there's this whole big list of things. I don't know where to start.
Right.
And that's why you start with what I call the questions. And I actually just did a post the other day. You're asking the wrong questions. You're asking, like, what technology should I use? Should I go with Aweber or should I whatever? And those are the wrong questions to ask. The right questions to ask are about who you are, what you're about in this world, who you want to reach, what I just called guests, your big why. Why are you doing this? This is a lot of work. Why are you doing it? What's going to get your butt out of bed in the morning when you don't want to? And a whole bunch of other questions. And then the second one is about your business. What's your business model? Are you going to do a radio show like we're doing here today? Are you going to, focus on a specific area? Are you going to do live presentations? The idea of being on a phone and not seeing your audience makes you want to garf. So those are all the things that have to be answered. And one of the other reasons people get so tied up with the Content Beastie is they haven't answered those questions. So they think they have to do Pinterest, LinkedIn, Google+, blah, 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 write a blog, all of it.
That's where the overwhelm comes from, definitely.
It does, and I was talking to a woman one day, and we got talking about it, and she wanted some help with this strategy stuff that I do. And I said, which is great. Where do your folks hang out? Well, I don't know. And I said, you need to go find that out first, because otherwise you're going to waste your time, and you're going to go commit Harry-Carry, and I really don't want to attend your funeral. And everybody says you have such a colorful way, but it's just how I talk. So that's the thing that most people forget to do. And honestly, I did too. And one of my most orangutan fears was that if I got clear on exactly what guest I wanted to serve at my table, I wouldn't make any money, because, it's counterintuitive to think the more I narrow it, the better I can do. So I didn't.
Exactly.
I'm a bad person because, what kind of person excludes people from their table? That's mean and horrible, right? And one of the biggest mistakes I hope to keep everybody else I have a chance to talk with from making is that one. And here's how I put it. There's 7 billion people on this planet. If you are going to have Thanksgiving dinner, are you going to invite them all?
And I love your food kind of kitchen analogy, to expand it in this case. It kind of makes me think, okay, well, I'm hungry.
Right.
Well, that doesn't help anybody help me find, they can't refer a restaurant to me. But
right.
if I want some pizza now, they're going to say,
there you go.
There's a pizza place on the corner, and they sort,
And they have the greatest pizza, and it's really thin. Oh, you don't like thin crust? Oh, well, you need to go down here where they have a big puffy crust.
By excluding, you're helping other people refer to you.
And you actually are. And here's what I said. This is something that I have made the error on, and I'm confessing this on public radio, so to speak, right?
Mm-hmm.
So here's the thing. The mistake I made by doing it that way is that nobody knew what I had at my dinner table, so nobody could come visit me or help me pay my bills by paying for what I had at my dinner table, so they couldn't join me at my restaurant because they didn't know what I served.
And they can't refer to you? Exactly.
Right. And so the other thing, and what really brought this home one day, and I always learn from coaching my clients and being a consultant to my clients, and I had this woman who was going through this thing right here, just exactly, because when we talked about what she did, it was like, I can serve everybody, and what I do would serve everybody. And I said, I get it, and I have no doubt whatsoever. None. And I said, let me ask you a question. Do you want to serve people in prison? And she went, oh, hell no. And then she said, I'm sorry, I didn't mean for it to come out that way. And I said, no, it's not horrible. But by definition right there, you agreed that it's not everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But I work at the mindset level, the business level, the content level, and the technology level, and they're all like kind of integrated for me in my head. when we got through this, 40 minutes later, she found out she wanted to work with women who wanted to do outdoor events with music, all these neat things that now she could go do something different. And so that's the way and I'm sorry to go right into the content that's usually, there, but this is where you really begin. And if you don't begin there, you're going to be even more swamped and more frustrated because you're going to hang out on Pinterest for a year and then wonder why. Oh, well, Pinterest is really only good for people 25 to 35 who are planning weddings. Oh, crap. I'm planning, retirement parties.
Well, you're exactly right. It is kind of like that bridle that you put on the horse.
Mm-hmm.
Now you've got a direction, and you can drive it in a certain direction, and you've got that power.
Mm-hmm. And I really did not understand that. And I've been in business. I've had businesses of my own since 1988. And I really didn't understand that. And nobody really got it through to me, so it got past the filters of, bad and wrong to exclude, blah, blah, blah. I had people telling me this, and it was like it was hitting this wall.
Right. Well, when we're on our own, I think, and I think this is a really great point to bring up here on Soul Pro Radio. When you're on your own, you're hungry. You don't want to, let any job fall by the wayside.
Oh, God, no.
Right.
That we're bred into. But when we, as you just explained, like the Thanksgiving dinner, when we stop and we figure it out, we can't make it up on volume. We have to make it up on quality.
Mm-hmm.
And to really focus on the quality of the ideal client that we want to work with, because then we only need 10, 15 clients a year for a really satisfying, lucrative business rather than.
Well, let me take that, if I may, just one step further, because when I do this, it really helps clarify this. One of the reasons I call people guests is I think about it and I think, who would I want to sit down across from me at my kitchen table and sit and talk business? Maybe talk, oh, isn't that a pretty candle? Or, well, let's go, whatever. But who do I want? And the fact is, it's not everybody.
No.
And I tell people this one, again, your number one criteria when you write this down, and I have people do this on index cards too, by the way, just so you know. Mm-hmm. The very first card, if you don't write it, I'm going to write it for you, must say, they are willing, able, and ready to pay me and think they got a bargain.
I love that. I love that.
Because otherwise, we will be coming to visit and eat whatever you have under the bridge.
I like
that. I think, yeah.
I like that. Willing and able to pay and believe that they got a bargain or that you delivered value for the money.
Ready, willing, and able.
Able.
Mm-hmm. And to think they got a bargain.
I think they got a bargain. That's right.
That is
right.
huge.
I agree. Okay.
Does that help? Do you think everybody's breathing a little bit better yet?
Definitely. I can feel their blood pressure just going nice and down, and they're like, oh, I can do that. And I love what you're talking about at your kitchen table. You're really talking about connecting and building a relationship with these specific people.
It's a really good analogy. I like that. I'm taking notes. I'm saying, who do I want at my kitchen table? Who do I want to serve? I like that.
Well, and one of the things, I work with a lot of women, and one of the things we've been taught over the years is it's not a good thing. It's not a right thing. You're not a proper hostess or whatever shtick has been in our heads. To exclude people, it's bad enough to exclude them, but to exclude them on purpose?
Yeah, it's
you horrible, horrible person.
Yeah.
But we can't serve everybody, right?
Well, and that's the thing that is really truth. And one of the things that women do is, in trying to serve everybody, we stretch ourselves so thin that we serve nobody. We don't serve us, we don't serve our families, we don't serve our children, we don't serve our friends, because we're so busy trying to say yes to everything.
And we wear ourselves out in the process.
Oh, believe me, I know. I've had, you don't even want to hear my health history on this call.
I mean, that's a big issue that solos have to really, really grapple with, is that you are the most valuable piece of equipment in your business.
Mm-hmm.
So you've got to maintain that piece of equipment, which is you.
Yep, exactly. And believe me, short version, I had 5 surgeries in 3 years.
Wow.
Not a fun thing to do. I don't recommend it as a model. I'll love you anyway. And I can't say I recommend it as a model. And if you listen to anything from this call and any others, but if you listen to anything, listen to that. And understand that you are doing more for the world by saying no to the wrong fit and yes to the right one than you will ever do by saying yes to everything. Because when you are a solopreneur, you are essentially getting into some form of marriage with your clients. Mm-hmm. Would you marry everybody?
God, no.
And I like that because I think it's so true. I mean, it really, your health comes first. Because if you don't have your health, then you can't serve anybody. But the thing is, the point I think, or I'd like to underline from my own experience, is that when you choose the wrong clients and you're busy saying yes to them, you're bringing yourself down, you're beating yourself down, you're frustrated, you're not having a good time, you feel like you should be doing something different. And that's where that inner stress, it's not working right. Yep. How did I start this? How did I get so far over? Or as Barbara likes to say, how did you build a business that you hate?
Uh-huh.
So if I can, I know we have just a few more minutes left on the show, and I'm just dying to ask you this, Mama Red. So is this expensive, or what can the do-it-yourselfers out there do to kind of make this work for them? Do you have to really spend a lot of money to get this going?
You don't. And again, if you do the strategy up front, if you get this clarity, I promise you that you will probably save yourself in the neighborhood of $40,000 to $60,000, even if you invest $4,000 to $10,000.
Say that again, Barbara?
Well, I was just going to say, I love that you put that number on there because that's so relevant. And you say, well, okay, if you don't do it in the front, it's going to cost you $60,000, $70,000. But if you do maybe invest $10,000 on the front end.
Yep.
The reality is that you're setting yourself up to earn far, far more.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I love that dynamic. I think a lot of people, when they go into business, they don't think about that. They just think about, well, I only have this much cash available to me right now, so I don't want to spend any.
Right. And the thing I learned, again, remember that we're recording in 2014, and this is forever. What I'm saying here hasn't changed in the past, and I can't imagine it changing in the future. Because when you look back over the history of business, this has always been there. Whether you were planting a field and deciding that in the winter you decided you were going to plant corn in the spring, you had to set up the success of the corn by putting the right fertilizer in or everything else. So this has always been true. It's just a different kind of business. And the fact is,
so brilliant. I want to take a moment and just pinpoint that for our listeners. If you don't plant your seed, it's not going to grow.
Yep. And if you don't plant it at the right season, if you don't put the right fertilizer in, it's all that issue. And what I see happening, and believe me, I want everybody listening to understand this is not a judgment. We have been there. The 3 women on this call, we know this because we've been there. And some of the biggest mistakes I made cost me. And I've got invested in my own training well over $100,000.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
I look at it now and would have preferred that I sat down with somebody who could help me build the plan, the model, even if the technology changed. That's why I don't like to talk about the technology. I do. I teach it. I'm great at it. But the technology is secondary. It should be a servant to the business, not the be-all and the end-all.
That's a great point. It's a tool.
Mm-hmm.
It's a tool. I had a writer one time keep trying to come up with content for my website and kept coming back with all the stuff on technology. And I said, I'm not going to say this again. I don't want to focus on the technology. But she knew I was good at it.
Mm-hmm.
But the fact is, it should be the servant of the business. I had a woman sit and talk to me about her people, and I'm like, why are you on social media at all? Well, because, blah, blah, blah said, and blah, blah, blah said, and blah, blah. I said, do the people that you really want to have sit down and have a cup of coffee with you hang out on Facebook? She goes, oh, hell no.
Oh, you have just illuminated the struggle people have with social media. Do I need it?
I don't know until I ask the right questions.
Right, that's right. Yeah.
And I love what you're talking about. You're really talking about get the foundation. You can't even build a house if you don't have the foundation laid.
Well, yeah. What kind of house are you going to build? Do you want do you want a mansion? Do you want a log cabin? Do you want a tree house?
Are you building a swamp? Yeah.
Do you want a houseboat?
Well,
yeah,
I don't know about you, Barbara, but I want a houseboat right now. I think I'm about to come unmoored. It's really hard here, but anyway.
Crazy.
It's true. The foundation is really important, and then figuring out what is the technology and choosing the right one, because it's like if you don't, I think, does your audience hang out on Facebook? If they don't use Facebook. If you know they're on LinkedIn, use LinkedIn. If, you have a very visual, like I know a woman who does, vintage wedding planning.
Mm-hmm.
So in other words, so for the brides who want not the clothing, but the accoutrements for a vintage wedding, she does that. So Pinterest is her place.
Perfect for her.
Right. And I think that's important. Pick, because I just really want to, because I know we're getting close on time here, going back to the 21 tips and figuring out, that's great, because I love that. When you're done with those 21 tips, that's 3 weeks worth of content that you can repurpose and maybe get 6 weeks out of it because you want to spread it out a little bit.
Oh, honey, you ain't doing your math right. You ain't doing your math right.
Well, we didn't get the math. I'm a writer. Darn it.
No. What's 4 times 21?
2, 4,
don't do math on this show.
What?
What is 4 times 21?
I'd say 44, but I'd probably be wrong.
The point I was making, wait. The point I was making is when you get done with your 21, however long it takes, okay, you start over. You do another 21 and another 20. I like that because, and then you're not so tied in, because you're creating an editorial calendar basically, and you're not tied in. You can't respond to news trends or what's going on around you. Not that locked in. That if you look at something and you got to set it aside for a while because your industry just had an implosion, you want to talk about that, you can.
Right. But I know we kind of stopped because you pointed out that everyone was breathing hard, which I appreciate because I get all excited if you can't tell. But I do want to finish out one thing so that people can hear this one piece because it's important. Is that okay with you?
Yes.
Okay. The reason I ask you for math is that when you take 21 tips and say that they're in text format, but if you take 21 and 21 and 21 and 21, you get 84. Every one of those 21 tips can be in text. Every one of those 21 tips can be audio. Every one can be video. And everyone can be an image. So by understanding that, not that you create them, but by understanding it, you quadruple your reach with one tip. Now, if you combine all those 21 tips into, like, let's say a little ebook to give away to your people or to sell or whatever, you've got this massive intersection, which is why I like the ingredients and kitchen analogy. Once you start filling up your kitchen with these ingredients, you can cook up a training class that uses these tips. I had one client that had probably about 5 key audience groups he had identified. And I said, look, are the tips the same for each group? And he said, well, yeah, because they were business tips, right? And I said, so you take a cover, and you put a cover on it, And it says, 21 ways for you to handle HR when you're a 15-person business.
Right.
And then you do another cover and call this part of a series, and you say 21 ways to handle HR when you're a 50-person business. And now you're reusing the tips again.
Got it.
So it's not just the writing of them. It is the fact that they can be in different formats. And again, this is all part of the strategy work I do with a client. We don't try to do all of these unless you want to, sub this all out to my team and we go to town. That's a whole other ballgame. But if you want to start and do some of this yourself, we got to prioritize. But when we sit down and do the strategy work, you can take all the answers to those questions about your who and your what and your ingredients, and you can use them for the life of your business. So that's why I call this part of a sexy back end for your business and how you tame the content beastie.
Perfect.
So you're repurposing all those tips into different profit centers. I love that.
Oh, it's unending.
Excellent.
Okay. So now what?
So now it's, and that I kind of wanted to let you guide me on that because I got so, I got so into that and we started talking about the other piece. So I wasn't keeping track of where we left off. So if I have left anything out, will one of you please, call me to task and tell me to finish my recipe?
Finish your recipe. How long do we cook this?
I think we ought to cook it for about 6 months, a year,
Mm-hmm. Well, that's an important piece also. We talked about, planting your seeds. A little piece that a lot of solo pros miss is they want instant gratification. The thing is that it takes a little while. You have to give it time to generate and to germinate and to grow. So, you don't want to give too much time. If nothing shows up in 6 weeks or, a quarter, then maybe you need to do it. But, yeah.
Well, and the nice thing is once you have those pieces, and if you really, really want to get strategic and you've decided that you're willing, ready, and able, let's say, to keep a blog afloat, you automatically have, you could do a weekly blog for 21 weeks. And when you do this with your blog being Use Central, instead of you going and posting to Facebook and posting to LinkedIn and posting to whatever, you start with your blog and you click buttons that send it outward to where it needs to go. It can all be, restructured. I'm not saying you want to automate everything about your stuff, but getting your stuff out to those sites can be automated. You need to be in the stream, having conversations. But if you've posted something today, we can put things in place that make sure it goes to all these other places. So you're not spending your life, on Twitter. Oh, my God, Barbara said I have to be on this new social media called Pinterest because it's so cool. I did a Pinterest class a year ago, and I did it. I've had people say they've never seen it done quite this way, and I have a 3-step process I use, and it's called Plan, Prep, Serve. And I had done this class, and I was talking, and I was doing these promo calls, and they were totally unscripted. They were totally Q&A, and if you couldn't be there, I'd taken some questions and was answering. And I had this one woman on live, and she said, well, do I have to use Pinterest? And before I could catch myself, it's me. I said, why the hell do you have to do anything? And you heard this massive giggle. And she goes, oh, God, I've never had a guru say that. I love it. And first of all, I don't think of myself as a guru, so that was a real weird one. But it was also true. And I spent a year not using Pinterest because I didn't understand how to make my business visual.
Right.
I don't do wedding dresses and, cookie recipes, and I now know how to do it, but I didn't then. That's why I wrote the class. But
and an interesting thing that I find, like with places like Pinterest or Twitter, those aren't places I visit very often. However, I do have a presence that I established. And the bizarre thing, we talked a little bit about automating. I do automate things so that it makes sure that it posts whenever I post my blog. And the following grows on its own because the presence is there. So you kind of want to give people a little kind of a encouragement or something. You don't have to be 100% physically present all the time for the following to grow. Just create your presence there, hook it up. Pinterest isn't a big part of my stream. It's just, and neither is Twitter anymore. But I have presence there. I've automated my blog posts to post out there, and I actually do a lot on SlideShare, so I post my SlideShare.
Ever used one called Listly?
Yes.
That's another great one for that, because if you want to get some more traction, you can do that one. So there's
growth out you're having to spend that much time there.
And that is why this 21 tips approach, or 10 ways not to do something, or 10 mistakes I wish I hadn't made, or the top 10 questions people ask me and the top 10 they should ask me. The reason that it's really nice to do things like that is, first of all, they give you all the food. And if you've got a list like that, I will tell you, I can come up with at least 40 ways, if not 60, for you to repurpose your content. At least 40. I have a mind map that already has 60 in it, and it doesn't have images in it.
So that established you as a terrific expert, Mama Red, and I think let's use that as a segue to start wrapping things up on the show today. So if you could take a moment, tell folks about your website, how they can work with you after the show, any special offers that you might have. Let's do it right now.
All right. Thank you. You can reach me at Mama Red Knight, MamaRedKnight.com. On that site, you'll find some things about me. You'll find an always available way to set up an appointment with me. I have what I call kick that problem in the ass or shoot that problem in the ass session, which is totally free for you, and you're welcome to claim one of those. We take 24 minutes. We focus, and I will help you kick that one problem. Now, we obviously can't do every problem you might have, so what I have behind that are coaching programs. And I'm actually coming up with some of this kind of thing packaged into what would you call it, like online classes this year. So, but I have VIP days where we do a concentrated intensive and do the kind of planning we're talking about in one day. We can do it as monthly programs, and we can spread it out. As one person said, I don't know if I could handle all of it in one day, which I understand. But that's for that person that really wants to get off the ground, they're tired of diddling around, and they want to get going.
Okay.
So you can write me an email via my website, absolutely. Schedule a call with me. I hear tell from people who have scheduled them with me that they love my scheduling tool because it's easy.
We do like easy.
We like easy. So,
well, I have
a
thing, just so y'all know, I don't do easy or simple. I do doable.
I like that.
So,
I like that. So it's doable. Okay.
Well, because it's perspective. If you've never grabbed a mouse and somebody tells you to, left click and you don't know what you're grabbing for, it ain't easy and it ain't simple.
That's true. That is true. All right. So, Barbara, do you have any final thoughts you'd like to add?
Oh, gee, final thoughts.
Final thoughts. Yeah, otherwise we're going to just close things up here.
Yeah, I love all that Mama Red has said. This year, just to kind of underscore for our people, is the year of content.
Yes.
Last year, Google did some real big changes in their the way that they search the web and websites, and keywords and those things are far less effective now. Google
goodness.
realized there were people taking advantage of it and stuffing keywords and things like that. And so this year, content is paramount. And so getting your content out, having fresh content on your website, we're not talking, like Mama said, we're not talking big stuff. It could be just a couple tips a week. We're not talking big stuff, but it's fresh, it's relevant. You want it to be consistent to your brand, because that's what Google is looking for now. It's looking for consistency. Is this, you want to set yourself up as an expert or as someone who knows what they're doing. Don't be afraid of the word expert. If if you're 2 steps ahead of your clients, you're an expert to them.
Well, and the other really nice thing about that is that if you have your own mailing list, and I don't want to use terms that people don't necessarily know, but if you have your own mailing list and you want to keep in touch with everybody, that tip-type series thing is a great way to help your prospects and your clients without overwhelming them or you.
That's a great point. And, just demonstrating your expertise through your content, keep it simple, focused, that will bring your website up on the search engine ratings. Keywords really they haven't gone away, but they're no more as effective as they used to be. So
which I have to tell you, I'm really grateful for.
It's annoying as heck.
Yay.
So that would be my final word: is really concentrate on creating that. And it's important. Don't let it be overwhelming. You know what you know. Just share it.
Well, and here's the thing. Think about
this.
Okay,
no. We got it, ladies. We got to go. We're over our time. So
go on.
Just don't let it overwhelm you. There's always a way to scale back and do it a little smaller.
All right. So on those final words, and a few more final words, and probably a few more final words when we get off the recorded call here, but I just want to thank Mama Red Knight for joining us today. It's been a fabulous conversation. I absolutely recommend that you check out her website, look at her programs, and help you put together a sexy back end. And anyway, thank you so much for joining us here today. Barbara, thank you, too, for sharing the mic. And, folks, I just want to remind you that you are listening to Susan Rich Talks Live on Solo Pro Radio. And thank you so much for joining us. Have a great day.